Hey, welcome to the Business Spotlight. I'm Rick Plaskett, a business coach and a certified leadership and executive coach here in Columbus, Ohio. Today, I've got David with me, and he is one of the owners of Yellow Weld here in Columbus as well. Welcome, David.
Thanks for having me on, Rick.
Hey, I'm glad that you spent some time to invest with us in our audience today. Listen, we're going to be talking about David's experiences, his what got him into the business, and a lot of what makes him successful in what he does today. Challenges, best practices, those are all things that you guys in the audience have asked me to talk to business owners in your same area. And so that's what we want to do today. And I'm really excited about having David on board. If this is your first time on the channel, be sure to hit the like button and the subscribe button so you get notified when we drop a new conversation just like this one. We do this on a regular basis, and I say we because there's a whole lot of coaches that contribute to the Spotlight channel as well. Well, so David, welcome, and again, thank you for being here today. I wanted to start off with just giving the audience a little bit about who you are and what your company is so that they can understand from where you're coming. Tell us a little bit about your role in Yellow Weld and what Yellow Weld is.
Yeah, so my name's David. We founded Yellow Weld in June of 2020, Sean and I. We formed a business really because neither one of us could find a place where we were happy working long term. We wanted to be a place where we could learn, be ourselves, constantly grow and improve. And we just couldn't seem to find that out in the workforce. So we had to build a whole company just to have that for ourselves. So I come from kind of a family of tradesmen. My grandpa was a cabinet maker all of his life. So I kind of grew up in a wood shop and through just a whole series of things that I would never have expected to lead me here, I found myself working in small business and found kind of a passion where I least expected it.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you. So, real quickly, what got you from working with weld and sawdust and glue and nails to working with metal and welding?
Yeah, so originally I thought I was going to go to school for writing and musical composition. And I figured that was probably not going to pay my bills if I wanted to be a starving artist. So I had taken some welding classes in my high school. I grew up in a really small farm town out in Minnesota. And I figured I would do a semester. I thought I was only going to do a semester of welding and then I could fall back on that as a skill. And I didn't expect to like it as much as I did, and I didn't expect to be as good at it as I was. And as I kind of ventured into this industry, it opened up so much where I could see, this is really all around me, and I didn't really know that. But I could work on so many different things, and maybe it's less about if I want to do it and more about what within this do I want to do. So I ended up moving out from Minnesota to Ohio to go to school for engineering at OSU. Ended up in small business, kind of working part-time throughout that. And then I realized along the way that engineering wasn't it for me. It was business ownership that was right for me.
Well, congratulations on learning that early. Some of us are
Yeah.
corporate refugees, and it took a little longer to realize that owning our own business was the right thing to do. So, again,
Sure.
congratulations. So, listen, David, if there's somebody in the audience that thinks you may be a fit for them, what does Yellow Weld do? And how do I know that I'm your choice customer?
Yeah, so we cover a handful of different prongs of the industry. So probably about 60 to 70% of what we do is residential work, either direct to homeowners through designers or architects or builders. So that's going to be custom railings, staircases, doors, fireplaces, all sorts of things that fall under that domain. We do some work in commercial and industrial. So commercial, a lot of the same stuff just in buildings or businesses or things like that. And then in the industrial sector, it might be repairs on machinery or something like that. So we can cover a lot of ground, and that's been actually one of our challenges as a business is picking out if we're going to narrow this down, how narrow do we want to get and how do we make sure that's good? So I would say the best fit for an ideal client is ones that care about having human interactions and care about like a brand forward business. It's not very common in our industry, and that was a big part of what we wanted to do when we launched the business is I wanted to have a place where we didn't have to hang up our personalities and our identities like coats at the door, and we can have real interactions between people. We spend so much of our lives working. We should be able to enjoy that, and we should be able to be ourselves for those 8 to 10 hours a day that we spend working.
Super. Thank you. Thank you. So audience, again, this is David, and this is the face that you're going to see when he flips up his welding mask. So, David, what makes Yellow Weld unique? You had mentioned a couple of different things there, but I want to bring that out. What would your customers say make working with you unique?
Yeah, I think a personal touch is definitely something that we care a lot about. Having accessible information is another one, like transparent about not only our pricing, but how it all works, how our process works. I think contractors get kind of a bad rap, and there's good reason for that. And that's part of why we try to be educators in our industry so that people can understand what it is that we do, some of the challenges that go along with it, and how we just kind of bring ideas into a physical space. So some things that make us unique is that I think we have goals that are bigger than just making money. It's important that we make money as a business. That's how the business survives. But we want to leave a mark on the people we interact with. We do job shadowing so that we can help a new generation of people enter the trades and build proficiency and skills. And we also just try to have like super honest human communication with both our clients and other businesses locally, where we talk about the things that are easy, we talk about the things that are hard, and we just try to help one another and engage in our community.
Super. Thank you. Well, you hit on three of the areas that I think I want to do a little bit of deeper dive because I know our audience has asked for this a couple of times. The first is it always leads to marketing, right? We can be the best in the world, but without good marketing, no one knows about us. And so from that area, what marketing strategies have you used that work for you?
Yeah, so there's a handful of things. When we got started, we truly had nothing. Like we started with no loans, no investors. It was really bootstrappy in the beginning, and in the first 30 days, we sent over 2,000 outbound emails. This was at the start of COVID. I couldn't even go knock doors. I couldn't even go introduce myself at places. So that was the first thing we did was just send out a ton of emails trying to connect with people. We had somebody on our team doing LinkedIn work where we were sending, 300 to 400 outbound LinkedIn requests per week.
Mhm.
In the early days, that was a good way to build some connections. They're kind of slow burn sort of things. We have to think of it like we're planting seeds. We're not necessarily there to harvest fruit yet. And then, social media as being having a strong website where we can bring people in naturally through SEO, but having accessible content, I think, is a big thing. Like the welding industry is sort of mystical to a lot of people. They don't really understand what it is. They don't know what it looks like. And I think that there's something kind of beautiful about seeing not only the finished work, but seeing, here are the people who make it, here are the hands that make this work and having that representation. So I think focusing on branding is something that very few businesses in our industry do. And so it doesn't take a lot of focus there to stand out.
Okay, super. Well, in today, um, I'm sitting here just going through my mind, and I'm just too much. I'll admit, I'm too much of a Neanderthal. What key search words would I even use if I thought I needed, a metal railing or a staircase or something? What do you find in today's world are they using to find you?
So one of our best performing website resources of all time is actually an article that we wrote about whether or not you should repair or replace your handrails. That's a question that a lot of people want to know. There's things that don't hold up well over time. They might be more cheaply made products, or they might just not last forever. And so people want to know things like that. So we try to answer those questions in as unbiased of a way as possible. We don't want somebody to read these resources and think, oh, it's interesting. All roads lead to buy a new handrail. And that's great for us as a business. Obviously, we sell handrails, but more than that, we want to just be a resource that people can rely on and trust, and give them the solution that works best for them. So that would be one thing. Sometimes there's a lot of people that want to know whether or not, should I get an aluminum handrail or a steel handrail or a vinyl handrail or a wood one? And so they're just looking for information, the pros and the cons, and we do our best to answer those questions.
Okay. So that's it's interesting. My mind was not thinking along that way at all. Of course, I'm a reformed engineer myself, so I was thinking
Mhm.
of code and all of those different things. But thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
I think that's very, very useful to understanding. Everybody thinks from the inside of the woods looking out when we own a business.
Yeah.
And sometimes we don't recognize that the consumer, our next best client, is actually looking at us in completely different terms. And connect in their terms brings them in as your next new client. Super. So let's take that and project forward a little bit. Um, where do you see yourself in the business in the next 3 to 5 years?
Man, there's so many things I want to do in the next 3 to 5 years. I think, I kind of joke that this is my toxic trait is that I have a 2-year plan that's actually probably a 5-year plan, and I just think things are going to happen faster than they do. So, um, as far as a 5-year plan, I think seeing the business grow, we've been on a pretty aggressive growth trend since we started. And I think finding kind of that happy balance where the business and the team is just the right size, the right footprint, and we can just kind of stay steady for a little while and just kind of work on solidifying everything that we have rather than build upon it. I think we've been in a period of high expansion and there's a lot of things along the way that we could improve by 5%, 2%, whatever it might
Mhm,
be.
mhm.
Um,
Super.
so I've been very happy with how our team has come together. I've been very happy with how our portfolio has grown in the time that we've been a business. So now I think it's about kind of reconnecting to our original vision about being, better communicators than anyone else, more human than anyone else, better service than anyone else. Those were ideals that we had at the start, and it's hard to live those. Like
Mhm,
truly, as you grow, there's a lot of pains as you expand and you become something new. So it's about rather than us transforming into something completely different, it's about reviewing, the notes from the first 6 months of the business and what did we care about then? And did we lose sight of that? Did we lose, the course that we're set on? So I think that's really what it is we want to find everything that made us passionate enough to do this at all, and we want to just nail that and master that in a way that no one else does.
yeah, super. The audience doesn't know, David and I were talking before we got started here, and he just had a new key hire. So when you use the pronoun we, I know that you and your partner Sean um, have that vision of growth for the next 3 to 5 years. But that growth vision and going back to your core values and keeping true to those core values is no longer just you and Sean, but it's others that you now have to indoctrinate, teach, and help them to see the value of the values that you're setting forth. And
Mhm.
that's not always an easy thing to do. Almost like going into the old Chuck E. Cheese and hitting whack-a-mole, right?
One of my favorite quotes, and I don't know if this belongs to Alex Ramosi or if it's a quote that he uses, but he talks about how the vision of the business or the vision of the founder, it needs to be so large that everyone within the business can have their vision for their life fit within that. And I think that is such a perfect representation and visualization, and it's also so difficult to do. And I think that, that's really where the glue in the brand that holds the team together is just them understanding, like, we are shooting for such high goals, and you guys are a part of it. And that's why I always say it's not just Sean and I. We is everybody involved.
Mhm.
We might not even be my team. We is just anyone who has anything nice to say about us, who is contributing to our journey and wants to see us win.
That's right. That's right. You had mentioned that, and I can remember seeing at least three different keynote speakers get up on stage and identify Gene Roddenberry and the mission of the Starship Enterprise in the original series as being the epitome of what you just defined. Is it was so big yet so defined that it didn't matter whether you were the communications officer or the science officer, you knew exactly what your part was just from that mission. And I know there's a number of business owners out there that would love to have that type of concise, efficient communication on what's driving them. What is their why? And you've shared that with me a number of times, and it's really coming clear, not only in your words, but in your actions as well. What is continuing to look forward? What is your approach on goal setting? You had mentioned you have a 2-year plan that you think is more like a 6-month plan in your mind, because you're so driven to get it done. But is it a formal program? Is it something where the entire we um, knows what your goal is and knows what that part is, or is that still a work in progress for you?
It's something that I think that I get better at as time goes on. And I think one of the things that we have experienced as a business is we set a goal, and I'm personally very guilty of this. Is I set a goal, and as soon as I can see that I will hit that goal, I set a new goal. And then when we hit that goal, it's like it doesn't even matter anymore because I've moved the goalposts. And so, like, as a founder, it's something that I have to catch myself on. Is like, don't make the new goal yet. Like, hit the goal, celebrate, enjoy that you hit it, and then set the new goal, because otherwise you're always just chasing. But yeah, I mean, we were really hungry when we started. We were very motivated, and we moved very quickly. And it's a painful process to grow that quickly. So I think now it's less about growing outward and more about growing inward, and improving what we have and refining what we have. And then once that's really dialed in, we can go out again. But I mean, setting goals, I think it's funny because I think sometimes you realize when you've set goals that you're focused, your goals are somewhat on outcome and less about the inputs. And so
Mhm.
sometimes you have to be careful, because if you set goals on based on input, you can maybe make a small tweak that still gets you to where you want to go, but is responding to stimulus coming in or feedback from your clients. And you want to make sure that you define your goals in such a way that they can last over longer stretches of time, because if you make your goals delicate in how they're defined, then it feels like you're changing goals too often. And we've found that it's better for the team alignment to have goals that are maybe a little bit less pointy. So it's harder to chop the ends of it off, if there's a way that I can analogize that a
Yeah,
little
yeah,
bit.
that's brilliant. I love the way you describe that, David. That's we look at so many of clients that I run into and business owners, they want to set a pointy goal of I want to grow my revenue by X dollars. And revenue and new customers are two things that are always on the other side of the equal sign. you can't grow that. It's like you can't drive your car any faster. In order to make the car go faster, you have to take your right foot and push down on the accelerator. Then it goes faster. If you want more clients, you need to become better at marketing and better at sales. If you want more revenue, you need to be better at being efficient and efficient in turning customers' money into your money. So
Mhm.
awesome. Thank you so much for that. So listen, when you're thinking into the future, you've mentioned that you started in the pandemic and life was just completely different than it is now. And as you look into the futures, nobody's crystal ball really works. But you've shared with me in several of your answers a sense that you're not the same owner, the same person, the same leader as you were when you first started this. So how would you describe your leadership style in business today?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think who have I become is a question that I think about a lot. Um, I think it's very easy if you're not involved in business to think that, these characters who are, magnates or like larger than life figures, it feels like they have something figured out that you don't. And then in my personal experience, it feels like I'm a piece of Play-Doh or silly putty, and like, the thing that made me special was just saying yes to doing it at all. And then, through your life experience and work experience, you just get punched into all of the little cracks, and that turns you into what you need to be. If you're bad at customer service, you're going to have unfortunate conversations, and then you are going to have to build that skill because you'll get the stimulus. So I think I have had to become somebody that was more than what I was, in order to do what we've done. And that's not always a super enjoyable process, but it is a really rewarding process. I've found, it's super funny actually. Like, I always thought of myself as like a pretty good communicator, and then I start a business, and then you're dealing with communication with clients and also within the team and setting expectations and then having things not go the way that you expected. And I learned that I was not nearly the communicator that I thought I was, and so I had to work on that skill. I had to learn how to uh, sit more comfortably within conflict. I think that was a big thing. I've been kind of a people pleaser by nature, and I've had to learn how to change some of that. So my leadership style, I think, in the beginning, I think a lot of people choose, partnerships or business dealings where, they may be avoiding the decisions that might be
Mhm.
required of them as an individual. And so it feels better to have a partner. It feels better to have this where it's not solely on your shoulders. And I think I was guilty of that at times. Some good examples of that is, if I had a problem I was trying to solve, if I took it to the team, they don't have, I don't have the time to give them all the context and to show them every single thing that there is. And so if I ask for their input and then I get responses that feel uninformed, and then I have to essentially just do what I felt like was right in the first place. But now I've asked for a bunch of input that I've then ignored. And so then you learn, okay, there's certain things that this is just a hard decision and I just have to make it. And asking for input, actually, it doesn't help, and it just upsets people because they feel like they're not being heard if I ask them for input and then don't listen to them. So just getting comfortable with that is it's such a journey. Um, Trusting in yourself, trusting in your intuition and your judgment, knowing that you will make wrong decisions left, right, and center, and that your goal isn't necessarily to not make any bad decisions. It's to recognize bad decisions quickly and adjust, and always be humble enough and without ego enough that you can look at things from a constructive standpoint. Um, So I don't know if that totally answers it, but I think that
You
I've
know, it
absolutely changed. Yeah.
more and in a different way. And I love it, David. Thank you so much. You know, you've started to point out what a lot of us feel like, and what a lot of my um, interviewees have mentioned, that business ownership is a little lonely. That, you know, you do want to ask for advice and ask for input. And sometimes, like you said, communication is, your mind is 3 laps ahead of what your mouth is, and your mouth is 3 laps ahead of where the person you're talking to is. And so recognizing that gap will improve the quality of your input that you're asking. But that's, like you've mentioned, you've used the word several times, and I love it as a former military guy: self-discipline and self-awareness. That's a huge value that is almost priceless in today's world. Um, in that area, do you have who you would consider a personal board of directors? You know, people that you can go to and not have a misinformed response. You know, people that you would value, that's saying, "Hey, I got this opportunity, and I'd like to bounce it off of you."
To some degree, I think I do. To some degree, I think we operate in a certain amount of isolation as well. I really value the input from my team, so I do ask them for their input. I have to do it in a different way than I maybe did in the early days of the business, but I think it's something that, if I want to make sure that we're moving the business in the right direction, then I have to know what the direction is that people want to go. And
Mhm.
I can't always do that if the team only wanted to make something super narrow that wouldn't be viable as a business, then obviously I have to impart some of my own judgment into that. But I think just making sure that we're not losing the core essence of what we are as we refine and as we niche. But as far as who I ask, Sean has been a super important part of this business. We are sort of opposites in a lot of ways, and so I tend to be my vision is very far forward, and he is more in the tangible here and now. So I think we always have to kind of butt heads a little bit on that to find kind of the center of what we need to be focused on. And then I am super brand and environment focused. And, I'm I kind of joke about that, like once every 3 months, Sean has to grab me by the shoulders and point me back towards the money. Like, all right, we're a business. This is where the money is. Let's go this way. And I think if left to my own devices, we'd be doing all kinds of philanthropy stuff that we probably can't afford to do. But I think that community involvement, the workforce development stuff that we do, all of that really makes me very passionate. So as far as board of directors go, I think my hope is that we're meeting them on our journey. My hope is that as we do more
Mhm.
business together and we leave an impression on people around us, that we get that strong input and we get nudges in the right direction along the way.
Man, that is a great answer, David. Thank you so much. Yes, it's you know, I have valued a personal board of directors for years, and I promise you they are not the same people as they were 10, 15 years ago. And yet the mission is always the same, is I'm looking for people that can guide me, almost know me like my mother did in high school. You know where my strengths are, and know where my shiny objects are that might take me away from the target.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, and it's something that changes all the time. And is it ever finished? No, it's never finished. But good. I'm glad. I love the way you answered that question. So listen, we've covered a lot of ground today in this conversation. And for those of you that are watching, I highly encourage you to save this and come back a few times, because David's shared a number of golden nuggets that I hope you caught. And I know I caught a number of them. I'm not quite sure that I caught all of them. But listen, as we wrap up today, I'd like to just hit you with a couple of rapid fire questions that all I'm looking for is top of your mind. Don't be digging and don't be thinking too long. But number one, what would you say your key to success is?
I would say tenacity. I am a workaholic, and that's just the way I'm wired. And so it's about just knowing what I can do and doing that. And
That's
there's a lot of things I don't know, but focus on the things I do know and do those as best as I can.
awesome. Thank you. Next one. What piece of advice would you have for other business owners? You've had this journey that is just inspiring right now. What advice would you give to others that think they're on the same path?
If I could go back, I would slow things down a little bit. I think I would prioritize quality of life along the pathway, because I think a lot of people lose their way and lose their journey, because they haven't made it an enjoyable experience for themselves.
Super. Thank you. Um, with everything that you're doing, have you read anything that's caught your attention recently that you'd share with the audience?
Um, I am I'm a big fan of Alex Hormozy. I consume a lot of his podcast content. We also have several books by Jocko Willink that we like, quite a bit. We actually hand those out to the team and have them write book reports on those. So those are probably two of our bigger influences.
Super. Yes, I'm familiar with Jocko. Absolutely. If you had a choice of only one area for your business that you could immediately improve, I mean, just tomorrow morning, wake up and boom, that was better. What would that area be?
Probably communication. I think our client communication and our internal communication could be better than what it is. I think it's hard to hold that line as you scale. It's hard to build that infrastructure at the same rate that you grow. So
Hmm.
that's been a pain point for us that I think it'll feel a lot nicer once we have that ironed out a little bit.
Super, super. So, listen, before the final question, how can I help you and help others to learn what you've shared with us today? I am here drawing out of you. And if there was, I guess the simple way of asking this is, um, no, let me change that. I'm completely off. Cut, edit, that one gets thrown away. Um, if somebody is inspired by your story today, how can they get in touch with you? What method do you prefer? Pick up the phone, email you, text you? What's the
Yeah.
method that they can get in touch with you?
So email I check religiously. Social medias is another good one that I check frequently. LinkedIn. Those are the big ones. My phone rings a lot, so I'm always I'm always dealing with that. But if you want to have a thoughtful conversation about business growth or your own journey along the way, we hope to support other businesses like ours and other young founders like us. So don't be afraid to reach out, email, LinkedIn, or socials for that.
Super. Thank you. Hey, David, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your journey. Thank you and and our audience out there today for watching this. You never know when you might find a nugget or two that's going to help you out. And man, David's given me a whole basket of nuggets today, and I really appreciate it. So listen, thank you for being inspiring to our audience today, David. And for those of you out in the world, make it a great day and bye for now.